the shoot here today. So thank you for doing that, Anthony. So back to you, Edward. Tell us more about. Well, we were talking a little bit during the break. If you want to see what happens during commercial breaks, you can log into Facebook, Janelle MV Post Alberton, and see what you missed. But you were talking about. Oh, well, during the commercial break, we were talking about the politics of divisiveness and how both. I was saying how both GOP and DNC are working to divide and conquer. That's a basic strategy. How can we be the change we want to see in the world? And what are the themes running through your motivational talks that are primarily aimed at youth? Yes?
Youth and adults. Let me break off for 2 seconds.
Sure.
When I give shout outs to people, I don't want to forget anybody. So Daniel and Vinny at Trump Plaza, if I forgot you, shout out to everybody there. So, okay, let's get into the topic. Let's talk about divisiveness in politics, right?
Divisiveness in politics, and how, what is your solution to that?
Well,
how do you talk about it without being divisive when you're talking about divisiveness?
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to get at. The problem is, okay, so there's a lot of layers about politics that and I've worked around a lot of political people and know a lot of political people. And what the problem is to me is, like, I think that human nature on its base, we all want to do good. We all want to come from a direction where we're relevant and we want to do good. That's our natural state of being. The problem is political, is you come in that way. But the machine of politics, the machine of Washington, the machine of any local government, to stay in it, you have to kind of sell a little bit of yourself. You sell a little bit of your beliefs, of your morals, because everybody has a different type of interest, a need, they agreed to it. Their agenda is the only agenda. It's a blanket statement. You know, you do for me, I do for you. You know,
quid pro quo.
Exactly. So and that is many areas of politics. Also, I think there should be term limits. Politics should not be a career. People should not be in politics for 40 years and we're writing books and going on talk shows, because what happens is they just want to hold on to their power. It's not about, I'm going to serve 3 terms or 2 terms and I'm going to do for the people and this is what the agenda is and I'm going to leave it and I'm going to leave my mark and I'm going to go back to the regular world and start being society again. It's now I got to hold on to my power and I'm going to do what I have to do to keep it, and that's the problem.
Instead of getting on a helicopter and flying away, which is kind of cool, but in the old days, the president, when his term was over and the new president was sworn in, the former president would literally just walk into the crowd and join the citizenry.
That's a nice symbolization is very important in politics.
Doesn't happen anymore.
No, symbolization is something that I've understood with a lot of my events and my history, is that you want to know when to leave something where it becomes a symbol or it leaves a mark where people can look at it as something that they can take and make it their own and really make an impact. You don't want to be around, do things where it becomes redundant and it's not special anymore. You want to leave a little special mystique to it.
Meaning.
Yeah, and in politics, I believe that people should be the same way with their legacies, but the system has to change. I think congressmen and senators need term limits. I think you got people up there that are still kind of detached to what the community needs.
It's got to be easy to lose touch with the community. So how do you? So one thing that Elena Castillo and I do, we encourage on Monday evenings, is civics education. It seems to not be what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or longer when I was in high school. How do you? So back to your motivational framework that you mentioned earlier that can be scaled to be much bigger.
Right.
Tell us about the bones of that.
Okay, so the first thing I tell people is you have to be passionate about what you believe in. You have to have passion to what you're talking about and what you're trying to do, because that energy comes off you. It can't be for accolades or money or awards or things like that. Because if you come in that direction, then it's not generous. It's just dishonest. It's more about you, and instead of everyone else. So that's the first thing. Second thing, when you're speaking about empowerment or uniting people or a cause, and you have a crowd in front of you, you're never going to reach the entire crowd. You got to know that. So you got to release that pressure off you. The idea is if you can reach a couple people, it becomes a domino effect. And then those people continue the domino effect.
So it's like a stone in a pond, there's the ripples out there.
Exactly. That's the second concept. The third concept is you have to be pesty and polite. You have to be so
Say that
polite,
again?
pesty and polite.
A polite pest.
Very important. So you have to always be in somebody's face, but you have to be very polite about it. But you cannot let them say no to you if you're promoting something that is really empowering for people to come together. Those three things, combined with a wonderful team of people, and a great concept, and a great perception, and
So
a
the
relentless
pesty and passionate
attitude,
kind of bring
passion,
it together.
pesty.
If you're passionate, you're going to be persistent and
Absolutely.
persuasive and all this. We need a list of P's.
Absolutely. Listen to me.
Persistent, persuasive,
Absolutely.
pesty, passionate.
And then you have to understand the train track method.
The train track method.
Now, the train track method, what that is you might come into something with this great idea, right?
Mhm.
And you have a wonderful group of people. Could be political people, could be youth counselors, could be students, could be all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And you give them one track, and then you allow them to develop that piece of the project or that piece of the message.
Okay.
And then you go to the next track, and then the next track, and all of a sudden you got a railroad.
I see.
And it
Okay.
becomes a gigantic message in a project. You have to have trust in each other. Trust in each other that people are willing to want to do good and willing to want to promote something that can really bring people together. And you have to be that person that puts out that energy because people will gravitate to that. And you got to have honesty. Humility is one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. It's not about Eddie Eways. It's about everyone. Now, if our political people had had that kind of concept and attitude, it might be a better Washington world.
Like not me, us.
Exactly.
Who says that?
Exactly.
I've heard that somewhere.
Exactly. Everybody says it. It's the idea: do you really do it? Do you act on it? See, words is words, but it's
That's
action
true.
that really matters.
It's true.
And I always tell
And
people,
what does
when they
that look
at,
like?
Well, I always tell people when they look at politicians, they're going to say whatever they got to say to campaign and to get voted and all that. But it's the policies that speak out to you. So you have to really see what these people stand for. And sometimes a lot of the policies they can't realistically do if you know how Washington works, right?
Mhm.
But there are policies that really speak to somebody,
Yep.
that really make a difference. So you really got to do your research and you got to say, is that person really being honest in that? And can they do it? Or are they just giving me a rigmarole in my mind to have me vote for them, right?
Right.
So it's really research. It's really understanding what can be done. It's being honest with yourself. And I think being respectful. People always told me, my father always told me, it's better to be respected than liked. Because everyone can like you. That's wonderful. That's nice, but respect. Do you respect yourself? Do you respect each other? Do you respect your community? Do you respect your community public leaders? That has to be part of politics.
What does that look like? So let's shift towards the youth, because that's really where my heart is at.
Mm-hmm.
Do you talk to youth about politics?
In my time, in the 20 plus years of doing these projects and speaking events, we dabble into political stuff because there are a lot of people that want to be speakers, that want to maybe run for something. They look at our political leaders, and it's unfortunate that it's gone so negative, and so much division, and there's a lot of people to blame for that. I think all parties in the system itself. But when we do talk about it, when I do talk to kids about it, sometimes when they want to talk about the president or Congress people, your local leaders, I always tell them the same message. Be passionate in what you believe in and be honest with people. And
That's
you
the
have to
first
go
step.
in that way.
Well, we hear the music coming up, so that means we're going on another commercial break. You are listening to Edward Eways on Speaking of Wellness. I'm Janelle Alberton. We'll be back right after these messages.
How am I doing?
Sorry, I meant to show you this.
Okay.
So that's the break times
Oh, okay.
recording. That's also another advantage of